Oh, wow. Hi, everyone.
We're here.
Hello, we are here.
I'm out here.
Yes, Jay's here too. Hi, I'm Cory.
I'm Jay.
Jay over there. We have Lucius in the back. Switching the cameras, making this whole thing run.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here. And thank you for being here too. Where's my camera?
Yours is
There you are.
one?
Cool. We got the wide shot. We got everything going. So, hey, wow. We're here in the space. We're coming off of doing a bunch of random streaming gigs. So our setup kind of got tore down and recreated a few times, and so kind of slapping it back together.
It's weird to be back.
Totally.
Yeah, last week we did a rerun. What one did we do? I can't remember which one I had rerun. I think it was the video game sound effect.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I think that sounds right. Yeah. Hopefully that was fun for you.
Fun. Got cut off. So as always, I need to put like a little thing. I wonder if I can do that on our hour-long. Or I guess once we cut them down, we'll have like, you can finish watching it on Access Humble. I need to like at an hour, put a little thing on each of them so that we can just rerun them whenever and be like, continue watching on the YouTube.
Yeah, totally.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
So
we run longer than our terrestrial time slot.
Typically,
sometimes. But not tonight. I don't think we're gonna keep it short and sweet. So we've been tearing down the setup and recreating it, and also just trying to like make it more flexible and work better for us in different situations. The things that we've been doing is like, Jay was out like running a stream for like a live event that had some like audio playback elements as well as the streaming audio. So there's both taking sound from their sound system and running sound back to their sound system and sending sound all sorts of places.
Right.
And what we've been noticing as we've been doing this is that our mixers aren't really like giving us the flexibility we need to do the jobs that we need them to do. So we've been shopping for mixing boards and borrowing some mixing boards and testing all the mixing boards we have in the office.
I'm getting donated some mixing boards.
Donated mixing boards. Some of them work, some of them don't. But thank you. Oh yeah, I suppose for anyone watching this, if you have old functioning, ideally, music or visual or art equipment that you would like to rehome, the Ink People and MARZ is a 501c3 nonprofit, and any donation to our program is tax deductible. So
Nice.
We've gotten a lot of pretty cool gear thanks to the generosity of random people donating stuff, including this Mackie board that's sitting right here. Came to us as part of a video editing studio package.
Oh, that was part of that, huh?
I believe that's where this came from.
Oh, interesting.
This came from the storage unit.
Oh, okay.
There anyways, so here, check it out. So I've grabbed a couple of things, a couple of pieces. So you can I'll talk you through like what our problem is, and then we can go from there. So most people who interact with like recording audio and moving audio from one place to another are like hobbyists or like home studio types, right? Well, there's those folks, and there's like live sound people. So I'll address the home studio hobbyist people, folks.
Let's see. Hold on, tech
support. So in the meantime, so this is our audio interface that I usually have up here running my audio to the stream. So this is a like 2-channel audio interface, 2 inputs and preamps.
Oh, right. So unfortunately, with
this is like essentially the pretty much the bare minimum that you need. You need an input for whatever kind of signal that you're getting, and then you need a way to make it heard, to make it louder.
Unfortunately,
the input of the correct type and a preamp are two essential pieces when you're sending an audio signal somewhere and then making it audible.
So you unfortunately can't.
This thing then spits stuff out over USB into my computer, and also then spits out whatever I put into it,
like that.
And
although you can't
the USB connection or whatever's feeding to it from USB out over these outputs. So it has 2 inputs, 2 outputs. And this unit is called the 2i2 as a result. So a lot of times mixer companies will like name these things somewhat descriptively with some sort of numerical designation to help people sort of figure out what the features are of their unit. This is like, I'm loath to call this a mixer. This isn't really a mixer.
Well, so what's the difference between an audio interface and a mixer?
Well, okay, so an audio interface is actually a more complicated thing that involves multiple jobs. So an audio interface generally does 3 things. I hope that number is right. I just pulled that number out of it. So the first thing is that it's a preamp. Has inputs with preamps attached to them. And the other thing that it does is AD conversion, analog to digital conversion. So it takes my analog audio signals and converts them to digital.
Right.
And then the other thing it does is DA conversion. It takes digital signals and converts them back to analog. So, haha, 3 things. I made it work. This one actually has a couple other features. This has a headphone amplifier in it as well. And then, so there's a master volume and also a separate headphone volume with a headphone amplifier. So headphones need special amps to drive them, just like microphone inputs need little special amps to drive them. This also has phantom power, like a lot of inputs do, preamps for providing a little extra voltage for condenser microphones and other things that require phantom power. So all this thing can really do, though, is change the level that a signal comes in. There is a virtual routing component. So the mixer for this is actually in software. That's pretty common. For audio interfaces, we don't like that, though. Well, okay, it's okay. But
the audio one doesn't run great on Windows.
Yeah, Jay has a different audio interface hooked up in there, and it has some terrible user interface lag for some reason on the virtual mixer. And so it's super sluggish to adjust anything, and that just doesn't really work in a live situation like this. So we're on the stream, we're live here, and so like if you need to make a change, it needs to be able to happen in real time, responsively, to whatever's going on in the space. And so like physical controls are a lot more helpful.
Yeah.
So at a certain point you want like you can turn a signal up or down here, but actually this, it may not be that helpful. Like that thing's sitting up here. What Jay gets back at his end, he has his own volume knobs, but that's it. The only control you have is input volume. So you may find that you want more control in a hands-on way, or that you want to be able to route signals in a more complex way and have more hands-on control over that. And so that's why a real mixer comes into play. So this thing, this is a common mixing board that you'll see all over the place. This is an old Mackie 1402 VLZ Pro. I looked up when these were released, and I think these are 30 years old, getting on about this point. But
older than me.
Yeah, but like mixers are mixers. They don't go bad, well, until they do. As we've been learning. But as long as you take good care of it and keep it clean and don't like dump water or soda in it, like it'll keep working. Electronics gear on the coast here especially is special can of worms. But okay, anyways, so this thing looks kind of crazy compared to that Focusrite, and it's certainly got a lot more channels, but its particular features aren't terribly different. If we switch this top down, you can see up here in this section, we have our inputs. Now this guy's got what are called combo jacks. I don't know if you can see, yeah, there you go. Sort of see that. So this combo jack will accept a 1/4 inch like TS or TRS cable, and it'll also accept a XLR microphone cable into either of these. This mixer has separate inputs for them. I think combo jacks weren't as common, or the little parts that make them go got cheaper or something like that. So the newer things tend to have combo jacks more often, and older things tend to. That's a general rule. And then here's your preamp knob. Just like on this unit, there's what's called a gain knob here. Or it's labeled trim on this unit. Sometimes it's labeled gain on the Focusrite. Those essentially mean the same thing. This is kind of a gain to boost the signal to a level before you start routing it anywhere. So we use this knob to set our inputs to an appropriate level. Here, I'm gonna actually, can I demonstrate this? Oh, I did plug that other cable in. It really helps to have the stuff plugged in, don't it? So I thought I'd like just show you what I mean, because this one's kind of cool.
Plug something in?
Yeah, this one has some visual feedback, which is nice. So if I run my XLR, let me plug my mic in, and I run my XLR into input 1, then I can set my input gain here. And the cool feature of this board is it has like a visual meter, and if I solo this track, you should get an input metering for the track.
This was the board having issues with getting.
Oh yeah, this one was having an issue.
It needs a lot more power for those.
Right. Oh yeah. Oh, this one's being weird, huh? This channel's being funky. Is this a?
This kind of.
Is this channel being funky? Yes. Oh man, all of our things are having the same weird problem.
Yeah.
Maybe our 58s are going bad.
I don't know. I used one the other day and it seemed to.
Right. So like. This should be like swinging a little more wildly and level here, but But yeah, this thing's like totally like acting funny too.
Yeah.
So I would expect this thing to give me a much higher signal level here. I have my input gain cranked all the way, and I'm speaking very loudly in here.
Hence why we're mixer shopping.
Yeah. So you like as far as I can tell, there's something terribly wrong with this board right now.
Is this the one that we tested the other day?
I think so, but like I'm not even getting like a PFL signal out of it. We can like set the mains level here and crank it, and that's like
there's some noise.
That's just noise floor right there. Like so, maybe I have a bad XLR. Fun. Well, I was hoping to demo this for you, but I don't think it's gonna work out.
Kind of get the idea of how it's supposed to work.
Yeah. So well, sort of. That's a lot less interesting. Gosh. Trying to figure out what works and what doesn't is a real drag. So anytime you're troubleshooting like a thing, like you have to have a redundant everything, right? I need to try a different cable. Is it the cable? I need to try a different mic. Is it the mic? I should try a different mixer too. Luckily, we have a few, and I'm pretty confident that it's the mixer and not anything else. But the way this is supposed to work is that this trim level kind of indicates that you get the indication of your input level, and you set your input to an appropriate level, and then you route it around. And so something that I'm told when I try to explain mixing boards to folks is that, like, I mean, obviously when they aren't functioning correctly, it's a little more complicated. But when I try to explain these boards to people, they tell me that they find it kind of intimidating that there's just so much going on here. It looks really busy. But so what I try to remind folks is that this is actually just a bunch of redundant channels. And all you really need to look at is one of these individual strips. And the individual strip is actually really straightforward. Can we get this a zoom more, do you think?
Yeah, go for it. Should have plenty of zoom.
Where's that button? Aha! Ooh, creeping up. Okay.
Nice. Yeah, nice.
So that looks, once it settles down a little bit.
Yeah, the stabilization can't keep up.
Camera's on a long arm. So cool. So I know it's a little difficult to see, but the knobs on each individual channel, they're broken up into really 3 sections, and they're color coded, which is handy. I'm going to skip this one for the beginning. We'll talk about the EQ. The EQ is super straightforward. High, mid, low. You can go up, you can go down. You want more high, you turn the knob up. You want less low, you turn the knob down. Pretty straightforward. That's all there is to it. So every channel has a 3-band EQ. Super handy. I know that like having recorded my own voice a lot of times my voice comes in a little boomy. You know, I kind of speak in a low mumbly register. And so like I tend to like to roll a little low end out of my voice. When I'm using SM58s like this thing, when they work, I find that like I like a little high end boost on them often, just to like cut through. You know, but of course it all depends on what you're recording and all that stuff. Blah blah blah. But yeah, this is just tone shaping. So input volume, tone shaping, and then panning. This is a stereo thing, so we can choose to send this thing a little further to the left or further to the right of a stereo output. And then we have our channel fader. And so like now we can talk about those other knobs. I'm gonna slide this up a little bit so you can see the whole thing a little better. So the channel fader is an output volume to the main mix, and which has its own faders for left and right, which I kind of don't like. I've never once in my life been in a situation where I wanted one of the main speakers to be louder than the other. I just can't even imagine. But maybe you have. I don't know. I mean, I can think of some scenarios, but none of them are scenarios I would want to be in. Like, I don't know, if you were trying, well, I don't know. This is beyond the confines of the stream. So this is the signal level to the main mix, and then there are also 2 other signal levels. So, and these are the auxes here. So the aux, these may come before the EQ. So these they may be set up here to indicate that the EQ does not affect what's sent out on these things. I'm betting that's not the case though. Almost always this is after the EQ. So these are outputs that go to mono outputs. So the pan knob doesn't affect anything here. But aux1 sends a signal to aux1, and aux2 sends a signal to aux2. So then there are physical outputs for main outs. There's a couple more on the back, but we won't get into that too hard. Well, here, I'll actually, show you. There's main outputs here, and then there are our sends here. So there's a left and right main out, and the sends are just mono. So we have like essentially 4 outputs, but only 3 mixes. So like we can have sounds coming into all, well, there's really 12 channels, even though it says 14. 2 of them are stereo channels, or 3 of them, I guess. No, 4 of them are stereo channels? So it says 14, but there's really actually only 10 channels. That's the right number I was looking for. And so 10 channels, but 4 of them can be stereo. And then those can get sent to 1 stereo output and then 2 additional mono outputs. Why would you want to do that? Here's why. So most of the time, like music, we're listening in stereo, and like a lot of sources, it's important that they get played back in stereo. Like if you're listening to like a mix of like a pre-made song, or like those digital drums that we have, output in stereo. And it's like much nicer if you hear it in stereo, like especially like things like drum kits and stuff like that, where it's like, you want to hear the spatialness of the sounds. But like for a live music situation, a lot of sources are mono more often, and so this is kind of designed as a live music thing. And so like the idea being that you can send your main mix to the mains, and then you have 2 additional mixes that can go to probably 2 different monitor mixes. Oh. There's a few different ways you could do that. You could also, you could run a different way, but like I think maybe what they're thinking is like. They're labeled on the board. aux1 is labeled monitor/EFX, and aux2 is just labeled EFX. So kind of the way they're thinking about this is like aux1 would be like your monitor mix. Okay. So then you can when you're playing music, you have your main speakers that are like pointed at the audience, and then you have your monitor speakers that are pointed back at you. Some people don't know this. Like when you're on stage, it's really important that you hear yourself, and if you're behind the mains, you hear something radically different from what's in front of the mains. So you really really helps to be able to hear yourself well. So that's what those are for. So these knobs allow us to have an independent mix. So no matter how things are set for the main mix in the house, I can have a completely different mix for the monitors. So I could have something that I've literally done is if you're playing with a rock band where everyone a drummer's on stage and everyone's got their amps on stage and they're all out loud, you might mic all that stuff up and put it all in the house, but then the mix in the monitors is just vocals. So, and maybe a little kick drum or something,
Yeah, I always hear that can I get more vocals?
That is pretty much the thing you'll always hear.
Can I get more vocals?
Because the vocals are the quietest thing on stage. They're the unamplified instrument on an amplified stage.
So is it normal to be able to hear yourself when you're singing? Is that something even if you're say if you went to record a song in the studio, do you usually hear back yourself in the monitors?
100%, yeah.
Interesting.
Absolutely, yeah. You don't have to do that, and there's a whole weird thing about how your voice sounds funny, especially if you cup your hands over your ears, your voice sounds funny, and then when you hear your voice through a mic, it can be kind of weird, disorienting. So a lot of folks, myself included, like to do the 1 ear on, 1 ear off thing when doing vocals. Oh, okay. Or I'll do half on one of my ears so I can hear some of my actual voice in my room, and it helps me sing more in tune. However, if you're running effects, if you're running with auto-tune, and you're recording through auto-tune, you totally don't want to do that because you'll hear a mix of your dry vocal and your tuned vocal, and that'll probably make you sing terribly. Interesting. So anyway, just people care what they hear, and every different band member has a different opinion, right? And so
nice to be able to have options.
The more mixes you have, so this has an aux2, and we could you could use that for a couple of different things. Right away, I'm like, oh cool, you have 2 outputs, you could have 2 monitor mixes.
I feel like that board would work really well if it worked.
Working. Oh yeah, no, it has the features.
For our streaming
it has the features you need, but for some reason there's something going wrong with the internal.
They make
routing.
An updated version of that board that's essentially identical. I mean, it's got plenty of inputs, and
it's pretty similar to the things we were looking at. Yeah. Just kind of old school.
Because I really even those monitor outputs could be, those mono outputs could be used for the stream audio, and then actually having speakers in the control room that you could essentially play out. That's how we were when we were practicing, just setting up OBS and stuff. I just had you playing out of I just have a little aux, something plugged into the aux port on the computer that was playing your dialogue in there. So it'd be nice to have nice monitors in there where coming out of the main monitor, and then having a mix that goes to the stream, so you can have something different coming out in there. And then, the big thing is we've talked about doing having a talkback system, but eventually it would be nice to have those actual wireless headsets. Oh, totally. Then it's its own system. You don't have to.
Yeah, and that might be separate from this thing.
Right, it would be a separate device completely.
So what we're talking through right now is this notion that our issue on the stream is that there are 4 people now, including you, the audience, who want to hear what's happening here. And we generally seem to want 3 or maybe 4 different mixes of what's happening. And that's like when I'm up here talking, like I don't want to hear my own voice on this thing. These little Rhodes like have a tiny bit of latency and it's audible. So they come in slightly late, which it's like totally fine for the stream, but like enough that direct monitoring it sounds weird and just like trip mix, like you don't want, like it's really uncomfortable to hear your own voice slightly delayed back.
So that's the thing that I was like picturing, is like I've almost always heard it that way, where it's like kind of slightly delayed, but I can imagine if you hear it at the same time, it's not as bad.
Yeah, totally. So if you monitor it completely analog, like direct monitor, no, like the reason these have a latency is because there's a digital conversion.
Right.
It's so low for being a digital conversion. Like it's very low.
But just enough, even the
But it's just enough, that you can feel it. And then, when we record stuff into the computer and out, like that has that same kind of latency. Like it has to get converted and then processed and then reconverted.
Oh yeah, it's bad if you like monitor from OBS. It's like
OBS
really delayed.
So audio applications have run at lower latencies, and like I feel like even with this little Focusrite, this is a cheap interface, and that like isn't particularly feature rich or fancy. Like no like a special low latency operation or anything. But I feel comfortable like running stuff into this and like running it through Ableton with effects and running it back out and listening to it. Like I can usually get it to go about fast enough that it's fine, but that's like for studio recording stuff. Like, I don't know, it's just like different situations are different. I don't want to be here on the stream. I mean, I don't want to hear anything with latency on the stream, but I just don't want to hear my voice at all. Like I don't need to hear myself talking. I know what I sound like. You're all sick of it too. So all I want to hear when I'm out here using my computer is I want to hear my computer and I want to hear what's going on in the control room. Right. So if someone needs to say something to me about like how I like have spinach.
Stop jingling your keys or something.
Why are you?
You always take your keys off.
Why are you fussing so much? Totally messing around all the time. Like sit still, so in the frame.
We don't have.
But like, and so like in there, like Jay wants to talk back to me. Right. Or Lucius probably wants to talk back to me. But
we didn't actually
we don't really talk back around it. But like the person in the control room wants to talk back, but they don't want to hear their own voice either. Like so so there's 2 mixes. And so like then if we want to like speak to someone out here, like a third talkback for like a camera op or something like that, which is what we're talking about setting up, that's a third different mix probably. You could maybe get away with giving them the same mix as me, but you'd want them to hear me. You'd probably want a third mix.
Yeah, I think that was it, because it was nice. I mean, we had it working. I think it worked. It worked pretty good. The main thing was that I routed it so that I did have it where I could hear myself. In there.
So if you can so if you can compromise on your mix and make it work.
Right.
But like ultimately, so here's the thing. Like so if everyone, and so the stream needs to hear it too. So the stream is the 4th character. Like or whatever, So if for everyone who wants to hear the mix and who wants a separate mix, you need both an aux send or like in addition to the main out can be one of them, right?
Right.
So for every additional mix you want to hear, you need an aux and a physical output. I mean, these usually go hand in hand. But like sometimes, like we've been scratching our heads like, oh, can we do this thing like that we want to do? Like we've talked about. Well, the problem we're trying to solve is Jay has 4 inputs on his mixer and we want to use 5.
Right.
And he wants physical control over the mixes.
Yeah, that would be nice. And a little bit of EQ, because this room is not, it's not the most, it'd be nice to kind of have that ability and to be able to teach that too. Just to have it's nice to have the physical, version to show
absolutely
how to do these things.
I think it makes way more sense. And honestly, this kind of basic 3-band EQ is the best teaching tool.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time teaching like graphic EQ kind of stuff, like you see, like you've seen me EQ stuff in Ableton and it's all like you can make a curve that does any shape that you want.
Right.
But it's like people who are new to audio don't know about that.
It's a lot.
And it's actually not helpful, and you can really make it sound worse. I mean, like, you can certainly make things sound terrible with these EQs too if you want, but they're a little more like, they just do what they say they're gonna do.
Right.
More or less high. They're like, these ones are have a frequency descriptor. This one says 12 kilohertz, 2.5 kilohertz, and 80 hertz. There's like no adjustment in between 80 and 2,500, but which there's a lot that happens in there. But this is like, covers like 80 is like sub low end rumble. That's the thing you need to treat a lot. 2.5K is like vocal intelligibility. That's a nice thing to boost for voices or cut for non-voices. And then 12K is like brightness and air. That's a thing that like cheap gear has too much of, and like, and then also like, something that sounds like warm or like a little dark might want a little like brightness or airiness. You can boost that. So they're like useful frequency bands that are like, it's just like fewer options and you can just focus on like listening.
Right,
right. Whereas like you just endlessly tweak stuff for days is not a very helpful thing.
I mean, the Audient has some really nice features built into the app. But I really, for every little thing, I don't want to have to open another app, dive into there, try to remember what, I think the biggest thing, the nicest thing with that is the cues, being able to like cue different things for the headphone outputs. But since this has
it's literally mixes, the same thing.
It's the same thing,
just on in software versus hardware. Yeah, totally.
So that kind of like, kind of sums up the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so we're running what we've got. The lapel, the lapel mics are splitting into two sources, and those are the 1/4-inch jacks that we're using right now. So that's two sources, just like that. Two channels. Then we got your computer, typically.
We usually take like a stereo line out of the back of the Focusrite, so that's two of these.
Another two.
Into here, so that's the two more channels.
Yep, two more channels.
And then one for talkback.
I guess the two channels from your computer could go into a left and right.
Oh yeah, we'd run those. Like if we had a stereo thing, we'd run it into a stereo channel for sure.
So there's a stereo thing, and then there's also the stereo from there's the computer that's usually in the control room too for Blender stuff. Mm-hmm. So there's those. We've already bless you.
Oh my goodness. Have I sneezed on the stream before? That feels like I haven't done that before.
First time.
First time for everything.
And we'll make that the thumbnambell.
Yeah, right.
Cory sneezes on stream.
It's gonna be. So two mono channels, two stereo channels, and then we want to talk back too. So third
if we integrate the talkback into it, then enough for like if we need to run more mics, because there's chances where we have more than if we got another set of these lapels, we need two more inputs, and then we're already running close to having it full.
And then that is 3 channels left after that.
Yeah.
Okay, lesson number 1 when buying a mixer. Get more channels than you need. Because you'll need more eventually, probably. Yeah. And it's much cheaper to buy the next bigger mixer up than it is to buy a whole other mixer.
Right.
When you need to expand the number of channels.
So I still feel like, what were some of the options that we're looking at?
All right. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to get these physical things for Jay, like so that he has laid out visualization of what's going on in the mix, and then also hands-on control over every aspect of it at all times. That's the advantage of the mixer. So like you can get in these like software versions. I wonder if I can like pull up here. Let me pull it. Will it load when it's not plugged in? Oh. Yeah, cool.
Hi.
Check this out. So I use the Uad Interfaces. I have an Apollo 8P.
Oh, that's your Apollo, huh?
That's this is the virtual mixer for the Apollo. This thing is sweet because it looks an awful lot like a regular mixer. We were talking about Jay's like software mixer, like back-end stuff. This is mine. Different interface, but same kind of thing. And you see it's laid out a lot like this mixer. It has a lot of similar controls. Here's my my mouse isn't where you see it.
Yeah.
So one thing. You see like each of these channels has like a pan knob, and then there's like a solo and a mute button, and then a channel fader. And then the way I assign other mixes is I can go to the sends here, and I have right now 4 alternate mixes in addition to the main mix. So, and one thing I like about this interface, among other things, is that like the mixes are all on faders. So it's like visually the same.
Right.
I kind of like don't like how like when you're using this physical mixer like this, like the main mix is on faders and then the monitors are on knobs.
Yeah.
But like you get used to it. That's just how it is. Like pretty much every board is like this. Like this is.
It'd be nice
like,
if you could switch it somehow, like a bit. So I guess that's where you start getting into digital boards.
The X32 does that.
So what would be?
Okay, yeah. So
we talked about a little bit analog boards.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to get this thing.
And then
the one thing we're not buying is this.
Is that a digital board?
This no.
No, that's still an analog board.
This is an analog board. I believe.
So analog, digital, essentially like analog still like analog still. I mean, it still works. It's still like totally like if you want something that just works and simple, doesn't have all the crazy features, like this little Mackie over here would probably work for us. But I'm sure there's digital mixers out there that would also do exactly what we want to do
and more so.
And more.
So with audio, like analog is still like it's still a thing. Like it's not like digital has not supplanted analog. Analog signals will always exist somewhere in the signal chain. You know, like sound is an analog phenomenon. Like and so like the whole thing about music making is that you're translating. Even if you do it all on the computer, eventually it turns into analog electrical signals somewhere somehow.
Yeah.
And so.
It's interesting that video like totally is not analog anymore.
I know, right? Well, yeah. I love how like there's so many parallels and in some places it just completely falls apart. Yep. But you know, like in a live sound environment, we like typically there's no digital anything. Like it is common that like sometimes there may be a digitally controlled thing, but often the analog signal path exists. You know, and like certainly most of the gigs I play, I've run analog signals into analog outputs and like. But you know, like we do have a digital component of this, so right. So the whole thing about this, right, is like we want to route all these signals to some places, but one of the places we need them to go is into
the computer.
So
how do we do that?
And so the solution that we've been using in the other room is that what Jay's mixing with is essentially an audio interface just like this with more inputs and a virtual mixer like this thing.
So it is a digital, is it considered, or it's
an audio interface and it has a digital mixer application.
Okay, so it's sort of, it's a lot more like the Focusrite than it is an actual digital mixer.
Yeah, totally, 100%.
Right, so there's kind of like there's levels of.
Yeah, so there's levels of how much control you want, and there's also just like what kind of a job you're trying to do. So this is like a studio recording tool. This is a live tool.
So like if you were a streamer, you just get a Focusrite, plug your mic into it, and you'd be good to go.
Pretty much, yeah. So like, if you want to do anything to it, like change the EQ, for example, then you have to do that in some other application.
Software or something.
Yeah, so you can route it into some like software that lets you do some equalization or something.
Do you know any like simple softwares like that you could like?
Oh, just like live audio processing.
Yeah, like say I was a game streamer on Twitch and I wanted some like basic. I know some of the mics, like some of the USB mics come with like software for them. Like I think that the Yeti mics do that now. Like they have a software where you can EQ stuff. I believe that, I don't know if Rode does anything with their, well, since those are XLR mics, they're a little bit different. You have to have like an actual dedicated software. They might have something that you can do some EQ with.
Yeah, like this, the whole thing about the Apollos that I have is like, I can't show you because I don't have it plugged in, but it probably, it'll show you. Yeah, cool. It hosts plugins. So like this is the signal chain that I record Louis with. Run it through the Neve preamp. So this does like, this is a preamp and EQ. Three band EQ with a high pass filter and a couple gain stages.
It'd be fun to just
auto-tune.
Do a whole live stream auto tune.
Oh yeah, totally. And then a compressor.
We'll have to see if we can hook that up through and run it into the stream at some point and just like mess around with some of this plugins.
So like I'll tell you, so like this just works on all my audio inputs, and anywhere they get routed, like this happens on the interface before it goes anywhere. So this is the advantage of the Apollo, and a lot of other people are doing this now too, that you can direct monitor through your plugins.
And this is some like professional grade stuff right here.
Yeah, I think I'm running an Apollo 8P.
So this is like big time. Corey's a big time professional.
I mean, I bought some gear when I thought I was going to record bands, and then the pandemic happened. I have the older version. I definitely didn't pay this much for it, but God, oh wow, they went up.
It went up in price.
They're now bundling it with more software too. This is what I have. I don't have all the software with it, but I have the Apollo 8P. So I have the older version, the Apollo. This is the Apollo X8P.
So is that considered a digital mixer, or is it more like an audio interface?
This is a full-on audio. Oh, cool. You can buy it without the plugins, and it's $1,000 cheaper. That makes more sense. So yeah, this is still quite a bit more than what I paid. I bought it used.
So this is like a.
This is just a straight-up audio interface. Just an overblown Focusrite. Same features. Has nice like meters on the front, but it's 2 instrument inputs, 2 headphone outputs. Oh, what? Oh, this is the...
That's okay.
Oh, this is the X8. Not okay. This doesn't even have the 8 preamps. This one just has 4 preamps and line ins and outs. Oh, it's really just like a Focusrite.
Instruments and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So or external preamps. Then you get the. Here's the one. This is actually I have the old version of this one, and this one has all combo jacks on the back. And oh wow, they've really changed these things around. Interesting.
So what if I was to what would be a fairly what would you consider an entry-level digital mixer?
Great. Oh yeah. So Jay keeps talking about digital mixers. Like, what is he talking about?
I want to see what one looks like.
So there's analog mixers like this, and then there are USB audio interfaces like this, and then there are units that combine these two features. So there are mixers with a USB connection that'll spit out audio over USB. You have to beware when you buy these that there was a thing for a long time that they only sent a 2-track master output. So you buy you have 16 channels in, but you could only send 2 channels over USB. That seems to mostly have gone away, and now almost everyone I look at has.
Although I kind of want that though.
Well, you can do both.
Can you still do it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
because I want to do all my mixing in the mixer and monitor it in the mixer, make sure everything sounds good, and then send it to my computer and be done with it. Because OBS, I don't need I don't want to have to manage 15 different inputs on OBS, right?
Absolutely.
So
I mean, you probably couldn't even. You probably wouldn't let you.
That's kind of what I have to do with the ATEM.
Oh, right. But you have to get a plug-in.
I have to, I use the SEO for all or the, all that stuff to get it to show all the different inputs. I don't think actually the audience been good. It doesn't need. I don't think it needs an SEO for all. They do all show up, but it is all different inputs. So if I want our mics and Corey's laptop music and stuff, I have to manually add in all those different sources in OBS as different tracks, and then and monitor the audio. I mean, I can't monitor all the mixes really without doing some extra,
That's a huge pain.
Stuff. So having it where it just is one clean mix, do all the mixing before and then send it right to the stream, and it's just so. So
this is kind of what we're describing is this kind of a hybrid mixer, right? It has an analog signal path, analog stuff, but then interfaces digitally as well. So it's kind of the opposite of this, whereas this is a digital interface that does a little mixing stuff in the computer. We're looking for a mixer that does all of its mixing outside and then interfaces with the computer later. And so one very simple solution that could work if all of our stuff worked properly is we could run the 2 left and right master out into the left and right input of this and get a clean input into the computer. And that's a simple solution. But we're having these problems with these mixers. I just don't know why none of our mixers work correctly. I really don't know why. It's because we haven't used them for a long time and they were old and crappy to begin with. They were all donated and are ancient. Literally this thing came out 30 years ago and probably has sat in a moldy closet for most of that time. So what are we looking for? We're looking for a mixer that has hands-on control and then a digital output. So there's analog mixers with a audio interface, and then there are digital mixers. I'll just show you. We can poke around here and see
let's see some cheap ones.
Okay, this cracks me up. I just want to look at this funny little guy.
$40.
$40 for this mixer. What do you get? It's about as little mixing as you can do, but gosh, they managed to squeeze 5 inputs onto this thing.
I kind of want to just it would be fun just to get one and just to have it and maybe I'll plug I got my mic at home. I'll just plug that in and have some EQ. It does have EQ.
Yeah, so what you lose is the 3-band EQ. This just has high and low.
Okay.
Which is mostly what you need.
It's just hang out.
Yeah, gain control.
Okay.
So it has the same 50 dB gain range. So this has 10 dB more of gain. This is maybe something to look at. Preamps. When you were shopping for preamps, one of these specs is how much gain they have.
Yeah.
So the Xenix over here, the Behringer, and the one we're looking at on my screen, it's not really printed in a super obvious way, but if you go and look at these numbers here, it says a range of -10 to +40 or +10 to +60. That's depending on whether you're hitting the line or the mic input.
Right.
But that means that it's whichever one you come in at, it has a 50 dB gain available.
That could really make a big difference depending on your microphone you're using.
Yes. So the Mackie over here has 60. And so 10 decibels is a lot when you consider that decibels are a logarithmic scale. yeah. Just like the Richter scale is a logarithmic
Right.
scale, right?
It's
So like you know a
4.0
10.0 or like a 10.0 earthquake is quite a bit stronger than a 1.0 earthquake.
Oh yeah,
Right? Or like I guess in this case like a 6.0 is a lot stronger than a 5.0.
Yeah.
And same with preamps. Actually, when you add 6 dB of gain, you have doubled the loudness. So these are supposedly get about over twice as loud.
So I wonder if you can run this back through. See, like right now, I guess I'm not really using headphones necessarily, but you could run your main outs. So can you run, if you have this plugged into your computer, can your main outs also go into like your, like if you had monitors in, like say my office at home, I've got my XLR mic plugged in, and it has phantom power, I'm assuming.
This mixer, I think, does not.
Oh, well, see, that's a problem for me because I've got the NTG 1 at home.
Yeah, that would be a no-go for me as well. I generally am using a SM7B.
It's got to have phantom power, really?
Nope. No phantom. You gotta save that money somehow. Like, this thing is cheap as heck.
That's crazy.
So, like, this is really just like, you know, so it has like three channels, right? One channel with a little bit of EQ and 2 stereo channels without it.
So you could use it with the SM or
you could run like a 58 and like a stereo keyboard or something, and like a backing and a drum machine into it.
Yeah.
You know, I can't really imagine why you would get this though. Like this, like I really can't imagine, like, because it's not that much more expensive to get something with like a proper number of inputs. You know,
at least 2.
Yeah. Look, for $20 more, you get the same thing, but it has a USB audio interface.
Oh, so that other one didn't even have USB?
No, and phantom power, and built-in compression.
Okay.
So, like, why would you buy that when you could get this? I have no idea.
There you go. So that's a little better. See, that would work for me.
Yeah. So cool. So at this price point, we've hit something. You got phantom power to power your condenser mic.
Cool.
You've got additional inputs for other channels. This actually has enough inputs for what we're looking for. This is exactly right. 5 inputs.
Oh yeah, can you do 2? So line ins.
Except the thing you couldn't do is change the volumes of our mics independently because they're coming out on a single stereo channel, and they'd be panned left and right.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's actually not enough, but I was being kind of facetious.
Close.
But yeah, but so like, you know, you really have to think about what you want to do. Like if you want to run mics in and you want them to be mono, they need their own mono channel. So these, like, even though there's like lines in 2 and 3, those are left and right of a stereo signal and can't be, like, I guess there's a balance knob here, but that probably just like fades up or down the left or right side. That's weird. I wouldn't mess with that.
I could, like, you could sum it to mono in OBS and then.
Yes, you could. You could. But then you'd sum the whole thing into mono, which would include the stereo audio, which you don't want to do. So other thing, stereo signals can get summed to mono, but it sounds bad when that happens. It's destructive and like sounds weird. It's not like a problem in some situations, but like it's a bummer. Like if you're playing back like recorded music that's in stereo and it gets summed to mono somewhere, it sounds not good, or you know, it's not ideal. So as we cruise down here. We start to kind of get into the realm of things that have like the features we want. We have to like get onto like, we have to get pretty far before we.
Did you go to the? Are you sorting by price?
I am, yeah. So as the price inches up, you start seeing there's more inputs. You kind of start seeing people's different kinds of layouts. There's a certain price point where you start seeing faders, like around here. It looks like.
They gotta have those faders.
Yeah. Like, well, I mean, I'm like, it's really nice to have faders. Yeah. It really is.
That's that feed. Yeah.
But cool. So let's check this thing out. This is a 1622. This has a lot really similar features to our mixer over here. It's missing one of the stereo channels, but it's got. All right. Yeah, it's got so 4 mic inputs, 4 stereo channels. And then everything's got 3-band EQ. You see, there's 4 knobs on these EQs. That's really quirky. So the first 4 channels have 3-band EQ with a sweepable mid frequency. So that's why those knobs are different color there.
Okay.
Whereas these 4 have a 4-band EQ with fixed frequencies.
So, like, I mean, if you're doing something in stereo, like most of the time it's going to be like, what else would it be? I mean, that would be for your computer. Like, I'm not going to do EQ to your music stuff. Like, there's no.
No, you wouldn't want to do that. Like it's definitely for like if you're, trying to think of what I would do. Like if you were bringing in I mean, like the goal of this thing is like to create like a live music mix, which tends to be a little more aggressive in the EQ world, you know, than like Jay coming from like broadcasting and videography stuff, where it's like it really is more about just like put the right mic on the source and like don't mess with it. Yeah. Because you're going for like natural. Right. But like music's like larger than life all the time. We're trying to make things sound hyper real always, pretty much, unless you're doing like something else. It's like, so sometimes it's just like correct for problems. So when you put mics on stuff, you know, you might be just correcting room stuff. So you could like, but like these are stereo inputs.
So you get a stereo signal of like a, what would you mic with stereo?
Well, you're not like, these aren't for mics, so these aren't, that's not what these are about. Oh, so okay. Like, but like things like, like, so yeah, like a piano, so for example, like you might mic, like miking pianos stereo is super common. So the thing you might take a stereo line out from a keyboard here.
But it's still like a physical mic, right?
Like, well, I mean, like if you had like it's like a line out, like, you know, just like some digital keyboard with a stereo line out, this would be a great channel for that.
They do have, left and right channel. Okay, I see. So you're running kind of like how we're doing two, like out of the back of the interface, two, like we're actually running two cables. Can you buy them that are they're just one cable, like they merge into one cable?
Like with like that terminate like that, and they're like, oh yeah, totally. Yeah. I don't like those like, but you can really? I mean, it's just like.
Seems to be how we're always running them though. Always. Yeah.
I don't know. We have some shorter ones. I think it's probably just at length. People tend to not make them.
Oh, I see.
They get harder to wrap. Oh. I don't like wrapping like married cables like that. Huh. Oh, ideally we bundle them all together and like wrap them into a snake. With all
right. If you run
gesturing, I'm like gesturing at the microphone. I'm just noticing. Snake. Okay, so but yeah, so you might like say, for example, like the keyboards are coming in a little bright, or like you might roll off that first like high EQ, right? Or like maybe like they're fighting with the vocals a little bit. They're a good volume, but like you just want the vocals to cut through a little more. You might turn down that high mids a bit.
So would you do your vocals into the XLRs and then your instruments into the line?
Well, it's mics into the XLR inputs and then whatever else you can get into the lines. So the lines can take things like DI instruments, so like bass through a DI output could plug straight into that channel. Like keyboards. I mean, like also like if you have like outboard preamps, you can run the preamps into or like mic preamps. It's really just like they don't have the what they're missing here is the these gain knobs, right? That helps boost things to that level.
So they don't have that?
Nope, because they're expecting a line level signal.
It's not this here. The line. Oh, I see. Well, which wouldn't be a problem because most of the time
it's not a problem. No, because we're feeding I have a gain knob on the output of this. Yeah. So like it's totally fine.
Yeah, I already feed it into the audience has the what they call them, the ref or REF inputs. So what the acronym is on there on the back of it? It's like a RFE or something. They call it like it's like it's not actually like the 1/4-inch jacks on it's not the combo jack. It's just like a pass through essentially. It's not. I leave all the volume stuff up to Cory, and I just get the like direct feed of
So this is like they're called like line inputs.
Line inputs. I don't know why the acronyms on the thing are kind of weird.
Things get labeled. There's much different.
There's so many different names for all the different.
Like stuff. I was saying, those knobs that say gain here are labeled trim on this board.
Right.
And they're labeled trim on this board too. So that's interesting. On the old Xenix, they're labeled trim. On the new ones, they're labeled gain.
And adapt to the new term.
I think it's just a simpler terminology. The trim is like, just like what? So the gain is clear. It's like it is adding or like all this knob does is add gain. So I don't know why you'd call it trim when you're really boosting.
Yeah. So maybe it's a niche market though, like coming from, I know that there's a lot of companies that are now doing these sort of mixers that are geared toward streamers or podcasters. But like Rode is they just announced a new version of their Rodecaster mixer. But the thing with those is that they don't have stuff like those stereo inputs. They don't have like some of the other features that I kind of want in doing the live streaming stuff. So even though these aren't necessarily designed for it, I feel like a lot of them can deliver what we're trying to do with having like multiple inputs coming in from different sources and like having the ability to expand to have different you know, say we had 4 guests on and we wanted to have them all mic'd, I would need 4 different inputs to adjust everybody's level. And then
4 mixes with possibly up to 4 separate headphone outputs.
And maybe 4 separate laptops. Maybe 2 people had laptops. Like we had our one, we had Angel on with the, you know, both had laptops out, and then we definitely need another set of stereo inputs. If we both had interfaces, so. You know, it starts to add up. Like you add 1 more person. It's just like with the cameras. Like typically when we're doing interviews, if we've got 2 people, usually I want a close up of both the people. So that already is 2 extra cameras when normally we only need 1. So
totally,
then you have 3. So
it like scales up really quick.
Right. So having the extra, you know.
So I just peeked, by the way, at the specs here. So this one has USB. This one's just a 2-track out. USB connection for stereo recording. So you have to be, you gotta really dig down deep because like they won't advertise the number of channels over USB. So if you're a person who like wants a mixer that also does like multi-channel recording, which is like a thing. So like Jay's like, I don't want to deal with that. Like, nah, forget it. I'm just trying to like get a mix together for broadcast. But like, if you're doing something like, oh hey, like I'm gonna like mix this live show, and I want to record all of the tracks individually, so then I can like mix that recording, then you need every channel output over USB, which is a much more expensive feature.
I mean, see, it would be nice if we were more like producing these episodes. But since we're streaming them, I'm not as worried about it. I mean, maybe if we had the time to go back and like edit each of them and like go dive deep into like, okay, I'm gonna try to, you know, dip the audio when you're talking and bring it back up every single time. I mean, I could try to do it manually on the mixer while Cory's talking, like turn his audio down a little bit so that, which is kind of what I want to be able to do is like, because sometimes when you're playing your music, I'm not sure if the stream can actually hear you over the music that you're playing. You know, if your music is louder than you talking, I'm not sure if anybody can actually hear you talking. So like, being able to monitor on the board and know that whatever's I'm listening to on the board is going straight to OBS and sounds just like that, you know, I'll know then that everybody can hear you fine.
Dude, this thing hasn't changed at all.
Was that the...
This is it.
That's the same one?
The VLZ4 instead of the VLZ Pro that I have here. This is the current version, but it's like exactly, down to the layout, exactly the same. They've changed the knob caps and some of the graphics. But like even the spacing of that headphone output is exactly what it is right here. Very
similar.
Super similar. This is a $500 mixer and totally doesn't do what we need it to do.
It doesn't have a USB.
Only has 3 mixes, no USB. $500. So this is twice the price of the other one. It has less features.
Wow.
Maybe it sounds better. Like, so there's a thing of like these things have a sound, and like some of them, like we had this donated mixer that like couldn't get it to work well at all, but when it did, it sounded great. Yeah. And audibly to my ears better than when we had this one working, this one. But, you know, it doesn't really matter what it sounds like if it doesn't work. So blah, blah, blah. I keep looking at these things, and all these things that I've poked at seem like they're missing something.
It's always one thing.
Yeah, like the last 2, like none of the ones we've looked at have more than 3 mixes. So I think this was the one that we were peeking at.
Yeah, this was the
you gotta like. That just went down in price. That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
You gotta drop a pretty penny, but
yeah. Like, so here, why do I want to spend 3 or 4 times as much as that first mixer that we got for like the same number of channels? Let's find out. So look at all these mic inputs. First off, we have 10 of them. And then, you know, we still have there's fewer stereo channels on this mixer, so that is a thing. But, but you can always use 2 mono channels as a stereo channel. You just pan them hard left and right, and they're stereo. So, but you can't, you know, you can use a stereo channel as a mono channel, but only one. So you got your gain, you've got compression on 8 channels, which is pretty sweet. You've got a full featured 3-band EQ with swoopable mids.
Sweet.
You have 3 auxes here. Although, well, one just says FX only. So this may actually short us an aux, but we might be able to get away with it. It depends on where that FX knob routes things.
Right.
Whether that's just internal effects routing, because this thing does do some internal effects, or if it does some other stuff. So we'll have to double check that. And then This one's kind of interesting. It has these like groups. So bigger featured mixers have these. Oh yeah, here's your FX return. So it is an internal routing thing. So you probably, unless there's some sort of external effects routing, which it looks like there's not, then that's an internal one.
That was another thing with ergonomics when you looked at the back, like we were talking about, having all the inputs on the back of the board is very nice, but a lot of times they're just all on the top. And then you got all your cables just like sprouting out like a big waterfall or big geyser out from every which way. And
it's really messy looking, but it's nice if you have to reroute something. You don't gotta walk around with the back.
That is true.
So,
yeah, that's true.
It's like if you're running live sound and this thing is out on a desk, it's like pretty handy. But you know, you can't hide your cables away all nicely. No. So you can route these signals to like different groups. It's got interesting subgroups. There's a separate mix. Oh, there's a control room mix. So you might be able to squeeze a separate mix out of the control room.
I would love it if we try some of these out. Like
I know, right?
Just like rent one and
here it is. Okay, here's what we got to look at the output section. I'm all excited. So check it out. So we have our main outputs. They're XLR only, kind of a pain in the butt. And then there's a sub output, which probably, oh yeah, you can route things differently to the sub or not. So that's cool. So you can choose to route things to the main and or the sub output. You can also route the entire sub output to the mains. Yeah. And then 3 individual auxes. So this thing actually, I think, gets us 5 mixes. Wow. So this would totally do, like, it definitely for sure at least 4, which is what we needed. We really only need 3, but it's nice to have 4. Like for the talent, for the control room, and for the stream. But it's nice to have a 4th for the camera ops. Yeah. So yeah, and then what other things I like, USB recording. And this one specifically 16 in, 14 out USB audio. So multi-channel.
Yeah, multi-channel.
So, and also records to an SD card. That's kind of a cool feature. So we could just like plug in a data card, record a live show, and have multi-track audio on an SD card for later. Super cool.
So yeah, not only would it be good for the stream, it would be useful in other cases as well.
Yeah. We keep mentioning this thing about digital mixers, and I'm just like real quick gonna like flip this
3 minutes.
In the 3 minutes to talk about this. So there's there's a world of these features moving into a more digital format. What you lose is all the hands-on control of everything all the time, but what you gain is presets and insane flexibility. So there's this crazy, wacky world of these digital mixers. I got to like get my feet wet with one of them using this thing, which is kind of like the standard one. There's better ones now, but this has kind of become the standard, the Behringer X32. So you'll see it looks a lot like the mixers that we were just looking at. More channels and fewer knobs. Instead of those scary knob sections, it's replaced with this kind of like busier looking like section here where you can see like your preamp, your gate, and your compression, and your EQ, but you have fewer knobs, and it's kind of like you press a button and turn a knob. So you switch your band, and you can turn your frequency and your gain, and your Q and stuff.
And we know, we've
it's kind of cool, kind of not.
Somebody that runs one into a live stream, and it seems to work for them.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I mean, this thing's great. It does all sorts of. It's super reconfigurable. Like these are motorized faders, so you can like they'll like recall their settings if you switch them to do other stuff. You can do things like have a preset. If you're running 3 bands, for example, you could sound check each band, save their preset, and recall it instantly instead of like on an analog board, like
change it every
like
time.
writing down your settings or remembering, or just like having a huge board where you could set up 3 bands, on like 48 channels or something.
Crazy.
It all sounds miserable. I ran like I think 22 sounds of audio for a theater show on this thing, and I had never used it before, and it went pretty good. Like it was intuitive enough that like when I was able to get the couple of like show-stopping questions I had answered, it worked.
Well, should we wrap it up?
Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up real quick. Thanks for talking about mixers with us.
Yeah.
We're going to do this some more.
We're going to continue this conversation probably off stream, and maybe we'll update you if we end up with something.
Yeah, maybe you'll hear a cool mixer on our stream someday.
Yeah. All right, take it easy, everybody. Thanks to all our sponsors and all that stuff. Thanks to Access Humboldt for letting us stream on cable TV. Pretty cool. So, yeah. All right. We'll catch you all next week. Same place, same time.
Bye-bye.